Well, hello again to each and every single one of you very fine and wonderful people. My name is Sam and I once again welcome you to another episode of Weird Mind Newsroom, where for this massive bumper-packed episode, oh god, in this episode of new releases, a selection of ever-evolving trailers, and a massive lengthy focus on the news cause of one big event. Well, we'll get to all that now, so let's not waste some time on introductions, get to all things media for this week.
Feel a bit more like myself.
The first of the new releases of this week, and the only film in focus of the week, is that we have seen many interpretations of this classic movie monster from the classic B-movies of yesteryear, a fun adventure series in the 90s, and one that started and ended a planned cinematic universe. But this time around, we'll be seeing a new take on this monster being unraveled from a more established creator in horror, and one from my home country, as Lee Cronin has returned after success of his Evil Dead movie to bring his all-new take on The Mummy. Now, the film sees the sudden disappearance of the youngest daughter of a journalist somewhere in the far reaches of the desert without a trace, but suddenly the Shatter family is stunned when she reappears 8 years later. However, what should have been a joyful family reunion turns into a truly horrifying nightmare. Now, reception of this new version of the franchise is a bit more of a mixed outcome, though while the design, tone, graphic elements, and performances are praised, the film comes up short in the story aspect, and some feel it's nearly a copied version of his previous film of Evil Dead Rise, like in a Mummy movie, though it does have some fans. And if you want to unwrap the horrors unfolding, then you can catch this film out now in cinemas. On the first of the TV shows for this week, it will bring the case of getting another insight into the aspect of drugs, sex, and rock and roll, but this may be a lot more of an extreme format this time around, with a lot more questionable qualities since we have last seen this group, as after nearly 4 years and a whole lot of baggage, we have the release of the third and final season to Euphoria. Now, the new season jumps forward about 5 years into the future, with the now adult characters post-high school, with it focusing on themes of faith, redemption, and evil as they navigate life, careers, and complex relationships, with Rue dealing with drug debts in Mexico, Cassie and Nate's troubled marriage, Jules in art school, and Maddie working in Hollywood, all while exploring the fallout of their intense pasts. Now, reception on this season, however, has not been the most acclaimed and is currently the lowest rated of this series, that while some performances have been praised and the cinematography is done well, the scattershot plots, questionable material, and some other elements including the sense of episodes dragging have made the last season a bit of a slog to get through. But if you want to see where the story goes, you can catch the first episode now on HBO Max, Sky Atlantic, and Now TV, with a new episode releasing every Sunday night, Monday morning. Now for a bit of a somber posting, one I would never thought I would see come to this early, and a contrast of what I show was supposed to do, as these colourful and wacky characters have reached their time, and will be heading off into the sunset when I'm not ready to see them leave. But it has come to that time, with the release of the final 2 episodes of Smiling Friends. Now these last 2 have a focused different adventures, the first entitled FriendBot version 1258-9218792135287968799521. We'll see the gang come across a little fast helper bot from a job that doesn't last long and ends up dying before it can begin with crazy outcomes. And Charlie's uncle dies and doesn't come back. We finally meet Charlie's uncle after hearing about him across the series to help him smile when Alan goes on a date, and things will not be as simple for those characters when things occur. Now, reception of these 2 episodes, like the previous seasons, have been very well praised, with animation, concepts, humor, and some relatable dialogue focus, and showing that they're supposed to show of a diamond in the rough. And now deep down in my heart, that may be the end now after I watched them earlier this week, but I have a feeling that we will return in the future to make us smile again, hopefully. If you want to check it out with the final 2 episodes for yourself, you can catch the full series now on Adult Swim and HBO Max. Now on to the games now. While we have a massive AAA title this week, there is one game that has taken the internet by storm, with follow-up that many people have been waiting for about a decade now, and that I doubt they could finally feel a bit more like that myself. As it's time for you to create what you want, so we have the release, of course, Tomodachi Living the Dream. Now, of course, this game will have you see creating your own island of your own creation of me's and characters to make friendships, relationships, weirdness, and of course, a fan favorite jester. Now, reception on this new entry has been very well received, with praise on the visuals, content, and a light filter option on the game, even if some aspects have not been added yet, likely a future update to stuff like musicians and stuff like that, and some hope for more sharing options, but you gotta take the uncensored filter for this regards. Now, I have been playing it myself since launch and the demo as well, and have enjoyed my time, and if you want to become part of my island, which I've done with a few friends of mine, you can join my streams on Twitch and I'll try and add you to my own me or any specific character you want made. If you want to live the dream, you can play this now on Nintendo Switch. For the second game of this week is a little bit more of a long time coming, and a title that will be a focus of all the games and all the styles in the world. This game walked into mine, and we're about to turn this some rogue adversaries and some Swiss cheese, as we have the release of the all-new title of Mouse P.I. for Hire. Now, instead of the world inhabited by anthropomorphic mice in the 1930s, you will take control of Jack Pepper, a private investigator who must solve the case of a disappearance across the town of Mouseburg, where things may feel like a simple explanation will spiral into a bigger conspiracy than expected. Now, reception on new FPS has been very well received, with praise on the animation, gameplay, narrative, performances, and for getting the tone of a noir, 30s cartoon, and FPS done well. Even if one company who reviewed it are wacky complaint that all the cheese puns like that is expected in a game like this. And remember, for the case, then you can play this title now on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch 2, and PC, with a Switch 1, PS4, and Xbox One version coming some point later this year. And the last of the releases for this week is taking us into far reaches of the cosmos, where an unexpected occurrence has happened that leaves you stranded and must find a way home. But in this case, you will not be alone on this journey, with the assistance of an unexpected ally. As after years of development and delays, we have finally had the release of the newest title from Capcom with Pragmata. Now in this title, you will play as Hugh Williams, a spacefaring engineer who was sent to a space station on the moon known as the Cradle, when communication between the station and Earth has gone silent, where after becoming trapped, will come into contact with Diana, a small android child that will accompany you on a journey to restore the station, take down the rogue AI of Idus, and find a way to get back home. Now, reception of this title has been very well received as well, with praise on its story, its visuals, and the wholesome dynamic between the main character of Hugh and Diana. Capcom really making those parenting sims this year. First Resident Evil with Emily, and now this. And it's seen as another strong Game of the Year contender so far. And if you want to play it for yourself, you can play it now on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch 2, and PC. And with all that regards, that's all the new releases that we do have for this week.
In Soviet bloc, I was born and raised. In the gulags where I spent most of my days.
On the first of the trailers for this week, most of them are connected to the release of Cinemacon, bar one or two of them, and we will get to that event in a few. But for the one bit of horror footage in this week's release is in the focus that in some form of the world, and like I said, even when dead or some spirits may want to harm, they can't do much in the real world. But if they can drag you into their own territory, is a whole different story. As we have the trailer for the 6th film in this horror franchise, with a new look at Insidious, Out of the Further. The new film follows Gemma, played by Amelia Eve, a young mother who discovers that she can travel into the Further, a purgatorial realm of lost souls. When something evil comes after her, she realizes that she could bring what lives there back into the real world, and once the demon realizes her power, our world soon becomes their playground. So I've had a whole mixed appeal to this franchise. I've had one that's not really kept up with the series. I probably watched at the most the first movie and seen a bit of the second or third movie, but I felt a little with the franchise that if you've seen one of them, you've seen them all in some capacity, but I can see what they're trying. Though I'm unsure how much of this will connect to the other films besides the one that can tap into the supernatural form of the previous movies and stuff like that. But I may be sure to get an idea, and I'm sure it'll have its fans, but we can see by the release of this movie in a couple of weeks' time when releasing the cinemas from the 21st of August. Our second trailer this week is seeing a return to the past for another round of sadistic games that appeals to the masses of elites from entertainment and make them a spectacle for others, where we have seen case about all these from the early events and the one that took it all down. But in this case, we will get the insight of the year of the games that showed when the real change began to occur and the beginning of the downfall, as we have the release of the second trailer for the upcoming adaptation of the most recent book of the Hunger Games series, with Sunrise on the Reaping. Now, taking place about 24 years before the events of the original novel and film, the new story follows a young Hamish Abernathy, played by Joseph Zada, who is selected to compete in the 50th Hunger Games, or otherwise as the Second Quarter Quell, where for this special edition of the games we'll see each district of Panama send twice the number of tributes to the capital, who will be all battles to the death in the annual games. Now again, similar to the first trailer, but more on the interest is that I've yet to really delve into the series of films or even the novels themselves, but I will at that point dive into these narratives and see what they're all about, and give a proper insight to the projects themselves. I'll have to say that for a moment in time, from the images and photos I was seeing of this poster and trailer from this week, I thought this was some form of expansion of the film of Midsummer from Ari Aster, but I can see now there's just a display of something bigger for one of these games for the anniversary of these events taking place, and I'm sure we will have its appeal and give a better insight into a character that was in focus in the original novels, but I guess we'll find out in due time when the games begin into cinemas from the 20th of November. Our third trailer this released this week is one for the movie event of the week, is the focus of the ideals that we have at one point or another have had the ordeal of meeting the relatives of our partner, and in some cases we can make a good first impression to many of the family, but sometimes some aspects of it all can be a bit too perfect to others, and that seems to be the case with this new entry in the long-running comedy series, as with the release of the first trailer for the fourth movie in the Meet the Parents / Focker series with Focker-in-Law. In a new film, we'll see Greg Focker, played by Ben Stiller's son, Henry, played by Skylar Gisondo, bring his girlfriend, played by Ariana Grande, a trained FBI hostage negotiator, home to meet the family. However, Greg soon begins to get worried when Henry tells everyone that he plans to propose to her, and he feels that there's something that doesn't really seem right about it all. It's interesting to think that the likes of the last entry of the series was 16 years ago, and it was also a surprise that we would get the follow-up to this, but it does seem like they have a concept idea to this overall. Now, my thoughts with Grande playing the girlfriend in this film is not a bad option. I just hope she's more in focus being practical and energetic compared to how I felt with her in Wicked, where I felt she was kind of a bit stilted in some aspects of that movie. But so far from this trailer, it seems they have a focus, and overall the original trilogy was enjoyable, so it could be well worth a watch. And I guess we will find out when we meet the family once again when it releases in the cinemas on November 25th. Our fourth trailer and only video game adaptation focus of the week, it'll be time for the gathering and the call out to some of the world's greatest fighters who will all come together to prove who is the best of the best. But it could be a lot more than it seems to be presented here, as it was time for battle and prepare to fight, as we received the first full-length trailer for the upcoming video game adaptation of Street Fighter. Now the film will see estranged Street Fighters of Ryu and Ken Masters get thrown back into the world of combat when the mysterious Chun-Li recruits them for the next World Warriors tournament, a brutal clash of fists, fate, and fury. However, behind the battle royale lies a deadly conspiracy that forces them all to face up against each other and the demons from their past. It does seem like it will be a proper battle of the fighting games this year, as both the biggest and longest running fighting series will be battling for glory this year, with each having some distinct tone to it all. While I was intrigued by the brief tease shown at the Game Awards a few months ago, this new version does have some sense of appeal to it all, and looks like it has a sense of the over-the-top goofiness of the original 90s film, as well as not overly serious tone of the games, and the choices for the cast of these characters were a bit of a weird shock at first, but this new ordeal after seeing the trailer actually has me more invested in all this now, and I'm looking forward to checking this out in due time, as the fight begins and the movie comes swinging into cinemas from the 16th of October. Our sixth trailer this week is taking us once again to a galaxy far, far away, as we will be focused our time between the saga once again and focus the tales of a famous bounty hunter that lived by the code and the tales of his journey with a small creature with great powers. And it seems to be a case that we are heading from a small screen to the big screen this time around, as we have the release of the final trailer for the upcoming film in the world of Star Wars with the Mandalorian and Grogu. And the film will follow on from the events of Season 3's conclusion, with the New Republic enlisting Din Djarin and his apprentice Grogu to take on the job following the fall of the Galactic Empire and take down some of the remaining Imperial warlords that still threaten the galaxy. Now, I've said it a fair few times with this project that in all sense I actually enjoyed the series, and I'm sure it had its share of ups and downs throughout the seasons, from a probably great and well loved first season, a second that is still great, even with a lot of fan service appearances, and for it that may not be the most strongest, but had some potential amongst all of them. And I like the dynamic of this character and his tiny child companion as they have traveled across the galaxy to take down powerful adversaries. Now there are some that may not appeal to the franchise at this point anymore, but I still have some hope that it's turning out good. Now we will have the appeal of the first season, but I guess we will find out in due time, as the film will be released into cinemas in about a month's time on May 22nd. The last of the film trailers is an all-new project from a well-established filmmaker who seems to be taking a jab at a bit of an established piece of fiction about the end of days and giving his own spin on the project itself, as we have the release of the trailer for the new film from Ridley Scott known as The Dog Stars. Now, based on the novel by Peter Heller, the film is set in the world after the events of a devastating flu pandemic that has almost eradicated humanity. We'll follow Hig, played by Jacob Elordi, a civilian pirate, and Bangley, played by Josh Brolin, a hardened ex-marine, as they confront outside threats and hold on to the possibility of a better life beyond what they currently live, and they search for signs of mysterious radio transmission. So I had not heard much about the novel myself from the past, but it seems like it could be a decent read through, and for the moment when I was watching the start of this trailer, I was getting the vibes of like I Am Legend from The Lone Survivor and his dog, but it does seem like an interesting concept and aspect just in the ideas of how people make some focus to their post-apocalyptic world. And from the brief tease and cast here, it could be a well decent project to watch and check out in due time. It's not too far from release either, as the new film will be released into cinemas on the 28th of August. And for the final trailer for this week, and the only game trailer we have in focus, which is a surprise, we rarely see these pop up in this category, is seeing us head to a place in a not too distant future where after the effects of a disaster of the past, we'll see many living underground to survive, and where initially we journey above to find the answers. It may be a case to escape from the past we caused, or to return back to those to face the demons that we have discovered. As after nearly a decade since the last entry in the series, we have received a trailer for the fourth mainline entry in the popular Metro series with Metro 2039. Now, based on the novel series and set about 4 years after the events of Exodus, you will take on the role of a new protagonist that is known as the Stranger, who seems to be plagued by violent and traumatic nightmares, where you will find yourself adversing into the post-apocalyptic metro of Moscow that he swore he would never return to in order to find some answers to his nightmarish visions. So I've delved a little bit into this series with playing the original game, which was decent. I have played a small bit of The Last Light in Exodus. I haven't really touched much of the other forms like the VR game or the spin-offs kind of thing, but I'll be looking up in due time. But I can say that the games are usually decent in gameplay, combat, and story, and we'll look into those other games real soon. And from what I can see from the cinematic announcement trailer as well as a brief glimpse of gameplay, it just looks like it could be a proper decent game and could be going much darker than the other titles in the series, but I feel it could be another hit on their hands, but honestly I'll give it a go when it does come out. Now, there's no official release date as of yet, but it is set to release sometime this winter on PS5, Xbox Series X and S and PC, so likely it's either the end of this year or start of next. With all that regards now, that's all the trailers that we do have for this week.
Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming.
Alright, I do hope with everything that you are strapped in for all of this week's news coverage, as we have a lot to focus in the realm of films this week. As this week, after initially being delayed this year, we have the release of this year's Cinemacon, as we have a selection of new announcements, updates, footage descriptions, and a whole more across multiple studios for this year's event. And I'll go through every studio with a focused presentation. Well, when there's at least, I think, 6 studio discussions. I'll cover all that was occurred, so buckle up, as we have a lot to talk about. And we're going to start with like the previous event. There was a few big studios and done in schedules of focus, with the first one in the realm of Sony Pictures. This is a selection of some few projects and unveilings of some new aspects of the upcoming projects. I think they also had like Angel Studios and Studio Canal in this mix as well, but I don't know too much on the former one, but I have about 2 or 3 announcements to grab from the latter one. But let's give a rundown on those projects shown off. And we'll start on the ones from Studio Canal. The first one is one that I'm all set for more wholesome adventures, as we announced that the lovable marmalade-loving bear from Peru of Paddington Bear is confirmed to be getting a 4th movie in the series of movies that he has shown great critical reception and box office, and I personally am all fine with a follow-up to these stories. Plus, it's not the only Paddington project, as an animated film is also on the way with this bear that I'm sure will be either in the style similar to the TV series that have recent memory, or else it might be in the similar art style similar to the original novels, but I guess we'll see. And I know for sure some more kindness from this bear will be needed in this day and age more than anything. And as for the other 2 announcements that I am aware of from Studio Canal, it looks like some classics from the 80s and 90s will be making a form of a new take in the modern age, as was confirmed that a reboot of both 1981's Escape from New York and The Howling will be getting made into the reboot format. Now, likes of rebooting these iconic films may be a bit of a concern and mess, but there is some I can see the likes of getting the right creatives and people involved with the project to really make it work. Like I know with one director that's a fan of the original Escape from New York, and that is with Matt Reeves, or the other creative is Hideo Kojima, who's like made references to Metal Gear Solid, but I can see either of them. I'll be perfectly fine with helming the project, but I'm sure we get an idea of what to come with due time for these 2 projects, but I guess we'll see. Now, the first in the ordeals from Sony is some small news updates or some projects of the way, with first being the first American-made film from Godzilla Minus One and Zero creative Takashi Yamazaki, with the film of Grand Gear that has now gotten an official release date by Sony, with it coming out on February 21st, 2028. The film is being produced by Abrams, and the ideas of what to expect from this film is currently being kept at wraps, and as mystery for the moment, but I'm sure we'll learn more in due time what this director, visual effects artist, and writer will have in store for his first English language film. And then we have a focus of the first of the dates in the realm of expanding video game adaptations, as Democracy will be on the menu, as a new film based on the popular Helldivers series and being helmed by Fast and Furious director Justin Lin now has an official release date for November 10th, 2027. Not much else is known on the project besides one of the leads of the film is Jason Momoa, so we will still see some more names popping up in between now and then, and I'm sure we'll see what the group will have to show Democracy for the glory of Super Earth in due time, but I'm sure we'll see it by its release next year. One of the only 2 projects by Sony Animation, and we'll get to the other one, was the unveiling of a new original animated film known as Buds that will follow the focus of plants breaking the rules of the plant kingdom and speaking to the human world, and in sort of an environmental message project. It seems like it could have some interesting potential. It gives me a little bit of the vibe to this year's Hoppers from Pixar as well, and also has a set release coming sometime in December next year, so we'll get a date on that in due time. And then for one of the big new announcements to come from the event, we was actually surprised, and one that has a lot of potential and some demand for a follow-up to this game title. We're getting something from this universe, as we announced an R-rated animated film based on the popular PlayStation title of Bloodborne coming in the future, and with one of the big names involved with the production is with YouTube star Jacksepticeye as a producer on the project. Now, the ideas can be a worrying aspect, and some will write it off as film ready. I know 1 or 2 already have, but I see this as a potential with ones that love the game and concept with the right cast, a striking visual aesthetic that Sony has shown with animation as of late, and everything worked with the creator and studio that made it what it is a success, and I'm sure it could work out and be well worth a watch when it releases some point in the near future. Now for a project with some proper footage introduced, and we start off with the superhero front as we unveiled an extended scene for the new Spider-Man movie A Brand New Day that will start off with Peter at a bodega where Ned and MJ meet up, and then he follows them to an apartment where Ned is trying to figure out who Spider-Man is during a house party, where he's introduced to MJ as Maynard before discovering she has a new boyfriend, before cutting to a scissor reel of footage introducing a clip of Peter's eyes going completely black and may hint to rumors of him becoming Man-Spider in this movie that have floated around the last few weeks. While we have not got any of the footage yet, we did get 2 new posters that are quite cool, one of Peter finding the Hand Clan and the other of being a call callbacks to classic Raimi posters, so it does have some appeal. I'm sure will be an interesting outcome by its release on the 31st of July. And the next in focus was with the new Insidious, but then since we had a trailer of that, we can move on to the other horror that was shown, which is a new look at the upcoming film adaptation of Resident Evil from Zach Krieger. Now, not much is really shown besides the teaser focusing on an unnamed protagonist played by Austin Abrams, investigating through dark abandoned houses, streets, and sewers with glimpses of otherworldly horrors in the background. And while not heavily focused on horror, Krieger's tone with horror and tension seems to resonate well in this teaser, and he looks to want to keep it in tone to the mechanics and respect of the games itself. I'm sure we'll get the teaser of this in due time before the film releases some point in mid-September. Then from horror to more biographical, they unveiled some new look at the upcoming sequel to The Social Network with The Social Reckoning, which unveiled a new look at Mikey Madison's character of Facebook engineer Francis Hagen discussing with journalist Jeff Horowitz, played by Jeremy Allen White, about the exposing of the secrets of Facebook, before they cut to the first look at Jeremy Strong's take on Mark Zuckerberg, with a transformation that's quite a sight to behold from what I've been told, and maybe something that was worth developing a sequel for after all, but I guess we'll see the look into soon before its release on the 9th of October. Then a few projects with some of the names already mentioned unveiled the event that are present across more than one project and studio, and this is the first one to focus with director Taika Waititi, as he unveiled some footage for his new take on adaptation on Clara and the Sun, which will see Jenna Ortega portray the title character, an android who will find the purpose of being the perfect android for every family, which will come to effect in the house of a little girl who takes a shine to the robot, though the mom that's played by Amy Adams may think a little otherwise. The project from Focus sounds like it could have a lot of whimsy and colour, and seems like it may appeal more to people who felt underwhelmed by Taika's previous works of Next Goal Wins and Love and Thunder, so I guess we could see in due time, but get an idea of when this film releases some point later this year. Moving back to a form of game adaptation, in this case it looks like another adventure was unveiled, as they showed off the first bit of footage for the upcoming new entry of the Jumanji series, with the new film now entitled Jumanji Open World, with the footage unveiled showing clips of the previous two entries, with the game's avatars exploring across the jungles and desert, but then cutting to the present with the effects of how the last film teased that the real world and the world Jumanji are about to cross over, with the human characters being their game avatars, which includes The Rock now stuck in Spanish mode. I'll be on the big new adventure across the two worlds. It does sound ambitious, and I feel it will be well worth a watch around Christmas time. Hopefully it will be as entertaining as those previous films, but I guess we'll see by a proper first bit of footage and release later this year. Then to wrap up on the Sony coverage, will of course have to be with the most anticipated film of next year for me, and that is with the conclusion of the Spider-Verse trilogy with Beyond. The while no footage was released to the public outside the event, we did get some sick new images that I need to have hanging on my wall pronto. But in the footage, it seems to be the opening few minutes of the film, with Miles captured by the alternative universe version of him as the Prowler, with him trying to explain the multiverse and canon events with not much success before he escapes using his electricity powers and begins a scissor reel of other footage from Miles' dad and Uncle Aaron when they were younger getting up to trouble in a cool new art style focus, an army of spider people in a neon cityscape, Gwen in a multiversal bridge, 2099 standing in front of a multiple portals, and a glimpse at the Spot in a menacing tone stating, "I just wanted to be taken seriously." The footage was also shot and developed in the form of the biggest screen possible, I think it's a 1.43 ratio, and I'm excited for this project's release, and will be down to checking it all out when it drops in June of next year. But that was all Sony had to offer, and while not a lot of projects, it did have a few that showed potential, and the start of some events and presentations with a lot of appeal. But let's dive and see what is next on the list, shall we? And that next event is with the studio with a lot of focus in recent weeks, as we have the event of Warner Bros. Next in focus. This seems to have quite a bit of films to discuss about, so let's see what was unveiled at the presentation. And the first one is of course a new project announcement, so with nothing major to show, but the first is with a new film from Oscar winner Sean Baker, with his new project of TMO, which is being developed as is currently, and the most new announcement is with this project being one of the first films under the film company of Clockwork. So it seems it could have some potential, and I'm sure we'll see what comes of this project when it comes out in the near future or something in that regards. Now, while no footage has been shown for this next project, we got some updates to the new film from the world of Middle Earth with the official cast for the new film of The Hunt for Gollum, with Circus back as Schmeagol and directing the film as well, and the confirmation return of Ian McKellen, Lee Pace, and Elijah Wood in the new film, with 3 new additions including Kate Winslet as Marigold, a character from Schmeagol's past, Leo Woodall playing a member of the Dunedain of Halvard, and one recasting for the characters with Jamie Dornan playing Strider, as the original actor for the character is apparently a little too old for the project, and character focus for this in mind, and the choice is overall pretty solid. Likely to be a bit of time before we get any footage for this, but we will get it by the release of the film next Christmas. Then one of the newest announcements, and one of the only 2 animated projects in focus from this studio, is with the new anime musical of Bad Fairies that will star Nikuti Gatwa and Cynthia Erivo. That could be some new interesting high fantasy based project, but I guess we will see and learn more about what the story entails in the future, but could be an interesting one in that regards. While we have a new entry of this series in the way out this summer, we also got confirmed another film in the Evil Dead series with Evil Dead Wrath will be on the way soon after the new film of Burn, with this title dropping sometime in early 2028, I believe it's like April. Then the other animated film in focus from this event, and only supposedly another musical film, was unveiled unveiled with Margie Claus, a new film with Melissa McCarthy playing the character who will be on a journey to save Christmas, set for release in November of next year. They then turned to confirmation of the newest film from Mr. Robert, creator of Sam Esmail, with Panic Carefully, that is said to be a tech-based Silence of the Lambs, as Julia Roberts hunts for a cyber terrorist, with this film set for release possibly in late February of next year. Then they unveiled what has acquired the rights to the new film from Deadpool director Tim Miller's Shiver, with it being a new action thriller starring Keanu Reeves as he battles against sharks. It seems like some strong potential, and I'll be interested to watch when it releases sometime in the next year. Then Krieger is back once again with some new projects at WB, as the first in focus being a new original film being released known as The Flood, which will be a new film set in space, which makes it sound like they're making a film on the enemy faction from Halo, and will be produced by Spielberg's production company of Amblin. It's simple and ambitious, but it will be interesting to check out when it releases on August 11th of 2028. Now as for his second project from this director, it looks like he'll be returning back to his recent Oscar-winning film World again, as also confirmed that the spin-off prequel focused on the character of Aunt Gladys from Weapons has also confirmed the release date for that film, set to release a month after his new original on September 8th, 2028, and gives a history of this unsettling character and our past leading up to the ordeal of the film we saw last year, but I guess we will see about that in due time as well. It was then shown that another figure of history will be getting the film treatment, as Baz Luhrmann will be helming a project based on the figure of Joan of Arc, with Isla Johnson set to take on the role, and I feel it could be an interesting take on the character from the director, with a reported release set for November 2028, but nothing has been made official as of yet. Then we return to the realm of horror with the Conjuring universe, with the first being the confirmation that a sequel to La Llorona with the title of Revenge of La Llorona, set and confirmed for release on April 7th of next year, and whether this will connect back to the original film or have a connected story is unclear yet, but I guess we'll see in that regards. The other being a focus of where it all began for these paranormal investigators, with the confirmation that the prequel film of the Conjuring series entitled First Communion is in development and will be also set to come out on the 10th of September next year, so we will see where it all began then. And then from horror to fantasy for the moment, it was confirmed we were returning to the world from the mind of George R.R. Martin, with the first film in the Game of Thrones series, with the title of Aegon's Conquest set to be made, with it written by one of the creators behind the acclaimed Andor series, and it will be well worth seeing this great hero's journey, with it set to release sometime in the next few years. Then back to horror for just once more for the moment, it will come to the focus that the Curse of Death is ever continuing, as they confirm the next entry of the Final Destination series is on the way, with the film set for release on May 12th, 2028, which will be certain to have a lot more grisly deaths for these characters to be dealt with or try to avoid, but I'm sure we'll see by its release in about 2 years. And then the last of the project announcements was the confirmation that the return of the world of organized crime is on the way, as the prequel film to the Oceans franchise is in works from the studio that was set to be directed, written and starring Bradley Cooper alongside Margot Robbie. I'll have them portraying the parents of Danny and Debbie Ocean as they try and infiltrate the Monaco Grand Prix in the 1960s for a grandiose heist, and should be well worth a look into when it releases sometime in the near future. We will start off in WB's footage showcase with an extended look at the new game adaptation of Mortal Kombat 2, with it seeing Johnny Cage traveling with Liu Kang to confront Baraka, with it showing some of the quips and unserious nature that Cage is known for in the game, and showing a bit of a fight between the two, with some humor and serious action fighting mixed in. And it sounds like the film will be something well worth watching when it releases in about a few weeks time, May 8th. Then one of the focused DC superheroes of the event, they were given an extended look at the upcoming release of Supergirl, with a focus on her having to deal with some space pirates on some transporter, while with weakened powers to hold them off before they reach a yellow sun and start to throw down with a music backdrop of Smile by Wolf Alice. It sounds like she really fits the tone and style well for the character, and I hate to see the complaints of these usual suspects pulling the same crap on Millie Alcock that happened to Brie Larson and Rachel Zegler of recent memory, but seems to be calling out taking it well, and honestly, I see this being another entertaining project, another Superman summer, with it releases on June 26th. We then got a lot more dark with this next one, as it veiled the first bit of footage and trailer for the upcoming entry of the Evil Dead series with Burn, which shows it going a lot more grotesque and outright unhinged in tone from the use of Necronomicon, unleashes a hell ton of deadites, car gore, and even something involving a dishwasher, which sounds like something they're trying to keep it going an all-out gore fest that the series is known for. I'm sure we will get the idea of this unhinged project in a few days or so from a trailer release before it drops in the cinemas from the 24th of July. Then it's time for a bit of fantasy in the focus of the next project, with the ideal and follow-up to the original classic film of Practical Magic, with a focus on trailer footage of the two sisters Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock, their two nieces being played by Joey King and Maisie Williams, as they mentor a new array of multi-family generation of witches, and it seems to hope to capture the spark and appeal of the original film from the mid-90s, and it could be interesting to see this trailer released and revealed to us all before the release in early September. And then we had a focus and look at the newest film from Arjun Giannotto, with a proper full look at the film of Digger, that will see Tom Cruise portray a haggard man named Digger Rockwell, who is crass, foul-mouthed, balding, have a thick country accent, and based in a manor in the woods, and see him on some madcap tale of trying to save the planet from a consequence that he has caused. caused from the head of industrial means, and must use a shovel that has been reported to be passed down from generation of his family to save the day. It sounds completely insane of a concept, maybe a more comical aspect than it has been there's more totally previous films than Revenant, but it may be well worth a watch by its release in October of this year. The last of the horror projects that we have shown during the event, and the last as well from DC, is with the project that another standalone film of an iconic or maybe not overly well known villain, the Caped Crusader, as we got the first trailer of Clayface with a teaser showing him with a bandaged face while in the hospital, as we are shown all snippets and scenes of his life and career as an actor before the supposed action, before ending on a scene of him in a bathtub with some of his skin and material peeling off from experimental clay material he used to restore his face after the accident. And while not showing too much, it gives the vibe of the whole body horror aspect that the film is aiming for and fitting a tone for Halloween season, with this dropping a week before the day, but I'm sure we'll see the trailer in a not too distant future. And then the lastly animated titles from the studio's presentation is another adaptation of a beloved children's story, as he unveiled some new footage for the upcoming take on The Cat in the Hat, with the footage giving more of the narrative based on the focus of the two kids moving into the city and being unhappy of moving away from their old home, which will soon see the cat appear to make them happy, and will see the kids activate a device that will transport them to the very colourful and vibrant world of their memories in order to help find what has them feeling unhappy and get back home in one piece. And it does sound like very vibrant. I hope we'll have the abstract zaniness of the books from Dr. Seuss, and the first trailer from a few months ago, and I'm interested to see how this will come about in the future by its release this November, but I guess we'll see. We have one more project with J.J. Abrams in the focus, as we'll be directing duties with this new film of The Great Beyond, that while a small teaser is shown off, keeping a tradition of Abrams and his mystery box thinking, is keeping things very vague, but looks to use the aspects of an analog technology with some flashes of the cast, including Glenn Powell, Jenna Ortega, Samuel L. Jackson, Emma Mackey, and I'm sure we'll get an idea of more of what to expect, as well as a proper look and footage of the trailer before the release of the film this year on November 13th. The last of the projects in focus is one of the big ones of the year, and of course is to do with the third and final film of the Dune series from Denis Villeneuve, with attendees being screened the first 7 minutes of the movie with a focus on the battle scene of Freeman troops being dropped onto a stormy and soaked drenched planet where it's quiet at first before they are nearly slaughtered by a mechanical turret and a powerful beacon from the sky, as we see the effects of this jihad and holy war that Paul Atreides has begun to enact over those years, and the effects it will have as the film progresses before it shows snippets of scenes from the first trailer released last month. It sounds quite ambitious, and another one that has a point a little mixed upon the previous films. I hope this will have more of the oomph to it all, but I guess we'll see if it's released around Christmas time this year. But that was all of Warner Bros. Had a fair amount of them, their lineup, and interesting aspects that felt established, but some more new as well, and I could see them having appeal and hopefully some footage from them all released soon to see them properly. But now let's head to the next studio presentation to focus on what we have. Now we're heading to the studio that is currently having the biggest box office success so far this year, and that is with Universal Studios, as we have the focus of some project announcements across their different departments, with some big hitters still to come, but we can get a focus of what's to expect from this company now. And we start with the only new project announcement from this year, and that's with another biopic in the works, and that has to be the focus of an iconic musician of Snoop Dogg, with the one rapper set to produce the project, with Outer Banks actor Jonathan Davis set to play the musician, and the film being directed by Song Sung Blue director Craig Brewer. It seems like this is about time for this iconic musician to get a full film adaptation, with possibly aiming for a 2027 release, but it's unclear at the moment, but we'll keep an eye on this one. Now the focus of the one big films of the studio is a focus to start extended clip of the new film from Spielberg of Disclosure Day, that sees a focus on the clip of the trailer of Emily Blunt entering the news station and speaking the alien language that she starts talking in, and learning of others that can understand the language themselves. Alongside her on a journey to find Josh O'Connor's character, houses with glowing lights, animals that transform, car chases from the government, and some sense of confirmation that Colin Firth may be portraying the film's antagonist, and Coleman Domingo playing some form of doctor that sees going full disclosure as the way to go. It's quite an elaborate concept, and they have emphasized that they are not marketing any form of content from the last act or much of the second half of the film, which helps to keep it more of a mystery, and I'm definitely going to check this out when it releases on June 12th of this year. For the only bit of animation from this panel is return to those yellow henchmen in overalls, as they unveiled some new footage of the upcoming third Minions film of Minions and Monsters, with the clips shown focus on two different films they will be find themselves hijacking, with a western of them chasing after a bandit with money using a train, and then a more extended clip from the trailer of them fighting the Vikings. And I'm certain it will be a film of chaos and uncertainty, with a little bit of love for filmmaking, with how the Minions are usually, but I guess we'll see by its release on July 1st. And then one of the most of the summer's big epics, as they unveiled the footage of the Odyssey, and in this case, well, mainly in the focus of the footage that was already released in front of the IMAX screenings of Avatar, which is the Battle of the Trojan Horse, with some slight new footage of Odysseus meeting the goddess Calypso, played by Charlize Theron, and the most of the footage already seen from the Trojan Horse, and the better look at the practical Cyclops that battles as well. And it seems known as keeping things close to the chest of new footage, which I will say will likely be the next trailer whenever that is. And it'll be interesting to see this new historical epic, and whether this film will be shorter than Oppenheimer, which is what I've heard from his producer wife, by its release in mid-July of this year. Then for Universal Sci-Fi Horror, they unveiled the trailer for the new film known as Other Mommy, that sees a focus of a very enthusiastic Jessica Chastain being loving and caring for a small child, but something feels off with a focus of the mom suggesting strange things for breakfast, and it goes a bit more sadistic when the father comes in to burning breakfast before a contorted version of the mother appears from under the table. It essentially becomes a case that a malevolent doppelganger has infiltrated the home of the mother, and the mystery of some scenes after the one is if the normal mother or the other mommy, which gives it the sense of tension for the film. It does remind me of that 2 Cents horror story, one that has a really unsettling animation someone made for years ago, that I believe went, "One night I was in my room. My mom called me from the kitchen down the hall. As I walked down the hall, I'm pulled into the closet and a hand claps over my mouth to silence me. Shh. I heard it too. My mother whispers into my ear." It's giving me that vibe, and I'm interested to see the trailer itself before it drops later this year in October. Then there's one other story that's not brought up in the information I'm finding, but there's reports that Osgood Perkins is essentially making a sequel to his 2024 title of Longlegs, and teaming up with Nicolas Cage again as to portray the killer from that first entry. The issue is that with how that film ended, I'm not sure how it would work as a sequel, but maybe more of a prequel sequel, but I hope it turns out good. If it has the sense of that cryptic, amazing marketing that did so well with that first movie, then I'll be fine with it, but I guess we'll see what comes about this project in due time if it is real. Then for a more focused period piece, we'll be getting a new take on the iconic book of Sense and Sensibility, with the footage of the trailer focused on being a fairly faithful take on the novel, with Daisy Edgar Jones at the lead of the project, and looks to have a focus about the choice between love and a more logical, serious disposition, as seems to be a case that I'm sure there has many takes in the classic Jane Austen novel. I'm sure will have its appeal and was conceived by its release in mid-October this year. So next was Father-in-Law, but we already have a trailer focused on that, but we have a new discussion of the next one being more action heavy but also very festive, as we have given some footage and new look at the sequel to Violent Night, with David Harbour back as Santa Claus, who was hunting down the people on the naughty list in the first movie, now finds himself on said list due to losing the Christmas spirit. He looks to find it again by becoming a mall Santa, but will soon have to defend it when assassins try to take over the mall and out for revenge, with scenes of all-out battles, festive music, and the confirmation that Mrs. Claus is also present and played by Kristen Bell, ready to fight against the assassins, and it seems to be keeping the madcow craziness of the original and upping the ante for this follow-up. I'm sure it'll be another surprise success and a bit of an entertainment factor by its release later this Christmas. And then the last of the project unveiled during the Universal presentation was with the official first look at the new film of Werewolf by Robert Eggers, with a trailer unveiled and possibly confirming the film in the 4:3 aspect ratio, and shows the gothic tone he is well known for of a grimy town in the medieval English countryside, as Willem Dafoe narrates the tale of the beast known as the werewolf, as well as getting glimpses of his character as well as Lady Rose Depp's one, before we get the focus club of Aaron Taylor Johnson transforming into the creature, spliced with other footage before the title drop and the confirmed Christmas release date. It really seems that Eggers knows what he does best in this style of film, and it looks like he's set to be another hit for the end of the year. I'm interested to see this trailer and check it out later this year as well. And that was Universal had to offer, and maybe slightly less than some other studios, but they had a fair amount of solid projects on the way in mind. Now let's look more to a streamer company that's still releasing big films into the big screen. Yes, Amazon MGM is also present at the event, and they have a few projects and folks to discuss that will be making their way into cinemas in due time, and we can delve into all that and discuss more aspects to it all as well. So first we focus to delve into new footage from the show of the upcoming adaptation of Masters of the Universe that starts with Adam being questioned by the police over him having the large sword on hand before they are attacked by the creature known as Beastman, where he holds him off before Tila appears and have him bring Adam back to Eternia to help fight against Skeletor and his army. But speaking of the villain, we get a better idea of Leto's voice, and it seems to have an iconic high-pitched laugh with a bit of a snarl before we get all sort of all-out action featuring Shadowcat and the Man-at-Arms, as well as some bright colours, cool camera work, and some all-out brawling. And it sounds like it will appease the fans of the original cartoon, and more it does as well. And it sounds promising, and it'll be well worth a watch when it releases on the 4th of June of this year. The next project that was shown to focus was a new film known as How to Rob a Bank, which seems to have a bit of a true story premise of following characters played by Nicholas Hoult, Pete Davidson, and Anna Sawai as they pull off a Robin Hood-based fantasy of stealing from banks and giving to charity while recording their crimes on YouTube. While John C. Reilly's FBI agent is enlisting Zoe Kravitz's character, who is a former member of the team and the ex of Holt's character, and hacker to hunt them down. It does sound like quite the bombastic and stylish form of the project, and I'm certain it will be well worth a look into when it releases in the cinemas later this year on September 4th. Then they showed off some footage of the trailer of the new biopic film of I Play Rocky that shows Anthony Ippolito playing the young Italian stallion of Mike, who gains the name of Sylvester Stallone to stand out, and then the trailer shows him meeting with executive heads and other elements of the creation of the first original Rocky movie that he's making. And it seems like he has the look and feel to it all, and I'm sure he could be a possible award contender in the future when it releases on the 13th of November this year. Next in the focus of footage was with the new film known as Your Mother, Your Mother, Your Mother, with some of the footage in focus of Mahershala Ali in focus playing hitman who has to balance his life with this and caring for his kids while going through elaborate jobs and taking a break from a job as a perfume seller. While it has a bit of a lighter tone, there's a sense of some darker elements to it all, and could be something that could be some entertainment outcome to it, and maybe something well worth watching when it releases sometime in the future. Then we got a new look at the focus of the sequel to the film of The Beekeeper, with Jason Statham back in the focus once again, and we'll see his character of Adam Clay looking to take down the Beekeeper organization and lead all the way to take down the US government. And you can be sure this will have a large array of content, all out action, and him taking things into his own hands. It does have a look like it'll appeal back to the first one that has some appeal in the reception, and it could be another fun popcorn flick when it releases sometime in the near future. Then we had a focus with Oscar winner Michael B. Jordan coming out to present his own passion project, as we are directing and starring a new remake of the Thomas Crown Affair. And will be a passionate cat and mouse chase and romance between a famous thief of Thomas Crown and an insurance investigator played by Adria Arjona. And we'll see the focus from the trailer of these characters in a confrontation after stealing a large quantity of artwork and plan a heist to steal from a high-profile lead figure being played by Kenneth Branagh. And the trailer does well with the tone, sleek action, character moments, and a fair bit of spectacle for this big screen. I'm sure it could be a decent take on the modern day approach of this classic and worth a watch when it releases in cinemas from the 5th of March next year. Now the focus of the next one may have gotten some small teasers, but that really didn't show any footage. Mel Brooks has come along to avail some footage of the sequel to the original Spaceballs, with the sequel now being titled The New One, where the difference to the attendees getting some footage with the unveiling of Dark Helmet once again with a focus of his mask in the desert and figures that look like Ray and Finn, some online creators talking and speculating about the film, scenes joking about unfinished visual effects, a Harry Potter parody, jokes about franchises like the MCU, and legacy characters having children in the series, Dark Helmet getting a new headpiece and being inspired by Kylo Ren's mask, a Cubic BA parody, and even the likes of a Na'vi appearing with a lot of goofy and wacky characters and highlights that look like it will poke fun in other films of the Star Wars universe and other film franchises in general. And I'm optimistic about it, and I hope to be very entertaining when releases in late April of next year. While no date has been given for this project, the attendees were however given the first official look at the upcoming reboot of Highlander starring Henry Cavill. Now while the film is still currently deep in development, the project still has some sense of appeal from Cavill walking to a church with his sword and with a thick Scottish accent, showing the commitment to the role, as well as brief appearances from Batista as Krugen and brief snippets across the footage of Russell Crowe as Ramirez, and some action with sword battles, finding some soldiers from the World War II, and some great neon-hued cities, and it does have the appeal of it all to be an interesting project and personally could be some fun when it does release in the future, prove there can be only one. One final focus availing from this event was with the look at the next film from Gareth Edwards, as he unveiled some footage of his upcoming remake of the original 1967 film of A Cult Is My Passport, which will follow Soap Derzu as hitman in the 70s Detroit, as he's showing unloading 2 guns worth of bullets into a man's chest at point blank range. We then get a focus of him off stinging him out of paying him for the job, and we'll see him being hunted down by an army of hitmen after him. It seems very stylish and cool from the use of colour in unique ways and interesting shots and focus to it all, and it really does seem like he has a love for the original and giving it his own take overall. Now for certain will be an interesting to watch when it releases sometime later in the future. And with all that, Amazon had to show off something was, while maybe a bit more of a focus their streaming service, they still have a fair bit of content that fits well for the big screen. But now we move to the studio that has been on many people's radar for not the most positive of reasons. And that is of course with Paramount Pictures, who seem to be making a mess of a lot of things, but which in case includes the leaks of the Avatar movie that they blamed on the person that leaked it instead of blaming it themselves, because they leaked the email to someone and then that person leaked it, so it's your own fault as well. But they gave us providing a look in some projects and focus on all the future outcomes, but let's see what they have brought with them. So the first of the free game adoptions given to us confirmation is one that we'll be seeing going above and beyond, as they announced the events the official release date for the new film based on Call of Duty, will be dropping on June 30th, 2028, and will be written by Taylor Sheridan, the creator behind the popular series of Yellowstone. The idea of this can be a bit of a concern, as sure you can have the likes of it being very every warfare based project of recent memory. I do feel the writing could be solid and the director has a clear image for it, and hopefully it'll be more with the concept of leads being connected from the games and not really with big Hollywood actors or what setting will be and if it's adapting one of the tiles or a new original story, but I'm sure we'll get more of it info on this by its release in about 2 years time. But keeping in the focus of discussion about the concept of the military industrial complex, it looks like we're heading back to the danger zone, as they announced that the now confirmed a third film of the Top Gun series is in development, with the case of Tom Cruise like reprising his role in this movie and the case of the script for this project being currently in development. Now in this case, if there's anything, I do hope it will be as entertaining as the surprise sequel that had every right to be a mess as a legacy sequel, but so far it has shown mass appeal, and I'll be for certain checking it out with the interest and a bit of skepticism when it drops in the future. As for this, like some footage shown, while the project is still in early filming, they showed some brief footage of the 4th entry of the Sonic movie franchise, confirming that Jim Carrey is back as Eggman, who may be back in some form of cosmic chaos, possibly in a form of an alternate universe version or timeline, alongside some footage of the trio of heroes having a friendly race and a new look at the newest edition of Amy Rose. While nothing has been shown of the other new additions to the cast as of yet, I'm sure we'll get an idea of it by the wrapping of filming, the return of another hedgehog, and all other sorts of things by its release next March. On the side of the horror, but more in the vast last focus of comedy, they unveiled some all-new footage of the upcoming long-awaited entry of the Scary Movie franchise, which gives a focus on parodying the films that will have a jab at the likes of Get Out, Weapons, the recent Scream films, Smile, and a fair bit more, as we'll be processed getting mocked and joked with, in all form of being described as the equal opportunity offender, of going all in on the crass to mock, and I think from the first teaser it has some appeal, and it'll be a good laugh, and I hope it is good with its release in mid-June of this year. Next on my list was a trailer for the Street Fighter film that I've already covered, and keeping things in comedy for just once more, Johnny Knoxville appeared on stage to unveil the first trailer for the 5th and final film of the Jackass series, which is now dubbed as Best and Last, with the footage unveiled being a sense of emotion with also a barrel of laughs from a robot named Larry looking to perform a prostate exam on Steve-O with a claw. Something with goats and a fiery escape room is what I've had in store for this next project. I'm sure we will see this trailer be unveiled to us in due time, with this going all out with a bang with release on the 26th of June. We got a new look at the upcoming project of Heart and the Beast that will unveil the footage of the film with Brad Pitt playing a veteran who ends up in a plane crash in the middle of the woods, and a focus of the bond between him and his German Shepherd dog, and must survive against the elements and creatures in the Alaskan wilderness. And I feel it'll have the wholesome message and outcome of this project, and the hope to make it out okay, but I guess we'll see by its release sometime later this year. Then it looks like there's a possibly spooky festive season upon us, as we have as well, with Johnny Depp appearing on the stage for this presentation with some footage of his take on the Christmas Carol that will be directed by ex-trilogy Ty West, with a focus on Depp portraying Scrooge, and a first look at the spirits of Jacob Marley being played by Ian McKellen, Ghost Christmas Past played by Andrea Riseborough, and a glimpse of the Ghost of Christmas Present played by Tramell Tillman. And while it may be a little lighter on the horror aesthetic and a bit more humorous, the horror and gothic elements are still present in the ghosts and aesthetic of the world, and it's a case that the new take in the endless array of adaptations may be worth checking out when it releases in mid-November of this year. The last of the game adaptations and the only animated film in focus for this event, nothing was shown really for Mutant Mayhem besides the confirmation the main villains for that one will be Shredder and Krang, was the attendees given the first glimpse of the upcoming third film of the Angry Birds series, and we see that in this case that Red fucked, because he has gone full circle from the grumpy grouch to caring for a flock of birds. I believe it's 3 kids at different ages, with Silver from the previous film, and also see Bomb and Chuck trying to help in babysitting the little terrors in the teaser. Now I have no idea what the likes of this conflict is for the entry of this series, and if the likes of Leonard and the Pigs will have much of a presence in this as well, as you've not specified some of the characters castings, but I'm sure we'll get an indication of this footage when it releases just in time for Christmas of this year. The second last project that has a focus from this position was with a new look at the upcoming project known as Mr. Irrelevant, with Superman himself with David Corn Sweat showing off the footage of the true story of football player of John Tuggle, and see his journey as a young man meeting his roommate Joe Morris and try to get into the New York Giants, and we see his journey from a nobody to a football star, see his life while also going through some medical struggles. It seems like it could be another star turned for the Superman actor, and could be a feel-good underdog story set to release on Christmas Day. And then the last project given a focus to all of this presentation was with a first look at the new film adaptation of The Children of Blood and Bone, with a focus on the Afrofuturist aesthetic of the book that has a massive in scale to it all, and see some aspects of the visual effects of one of the characters casting a spell to forge a giant tree guardian to smash through an army of soldiers, and really bringing this fantasy world with a massive talent and focus to it all, and could be well worth checking out when it releases in February of next year. And that is all the Paramount has to offer in their presentation, and there is a fair few here that, despite my issues with the company at the moment, they do have a lot of projects that has an appeal to it all, and have the entertainment to come. I just hope they don't fucking buy Warner Bros. Just let them be on their own. Let Warner Bros. Be on their own, let Paramount be on their own. Be done so. But now it's time we bring this all to an end with a studio that before the presentation had commenced pulled some moves that many were not impressed with. And that is of course with the House of Mouse of Disney, as we have a selection of films to talk on from the departments of their studios, from the main department, live action, Star Wars, Pixar, Marvel, and Fox to go through. So it'll be worth a look into when we see what will come from it all. But let's delve into what was probably shown. Before I talk on the films, there's been a bit of discussion of some of the issues that have been raised about this company, as it feels a little manipulative that they gave a focus all of their massive box office success of other films across $1 billion at the box office, and going with their massive profit of the last 2 years with films like Avatar Fire and Ash, Lilo and Stitch, Zootopia 2, Inside Out 2, Fantastic Four, and just a fair few others of the last year or so. Which, fair play to them, but it feels a little stingy when it just been before the presentation they announced that the company was doing massive layoffs at the company, which include about 1,000 members of the Marvel company, mainly in the area of the visual department, which has already been a point of concern with some of their projects in recent memory. That will be a bit of a disaster, though there is a skeleton crew still working on the project as well. It was also not the only thing affected, as it also laid off the entire department that focused on the home entertainment sector that sold the physical media, with them trying to say that they see the future of being a streaming service, but in actuality I would still be majority focused on physical media overall, and this layoff is really dumb. The decisions of this new CEO so far is not that great, and I hope some things are altered because it does not sound good, but I guess we'll see. But for now, let's get to the projects already known to be on the way. We'll start off with the film that is currently coming out first with the list, and as with the long-awaited sequel of The Devil Wears Prada, where Anne halfway talked on the influence of the original and this project, and then delved into a clip that may have shared online of last few days, which is Miranda Presley giving her thoughts on a new range of attire and clothing range, with her shooting down a lot of it, with her assistant being at arm's length to stop her from saying anything controversial before we cut into a scissor reel of footage from the film. It seems that the original flair and charm is still there, and I'm sure they will work in some aspects of the modern day to make it work and appeal to the overall original, but I guess we'll find it in due time as the film is only another 2 weeks away. But we're heading over to one of my favorite studios, Pixar, and side note, I don't blame them for the cancellation of that film they were developing known as B3 that was essentially their K-pop Demon Hunters, because it's really the higher-ups at Disney that cancelled and not Pixar. And we're going to focus the project of Toy Story 5 with 2 scenes in focus, which starts with Bonnie getting her lily pad from her parents and becoming addicted to the device. And after a screen break, Jessie and Bullseye confront the tablet and try to tell them off about ruining their plans for Bonnie to make friends during the summer. But it seems that lily pad is well ahead of them, making them part of an educational group chat that leads into her going to a sleepover with some new friends. As for the second scene, it sees the return of Woody after being asked for help by Jessie and shows that he is sporting a bit of a new look from a poncho, a big bald spot on the back of his head, and even what appears to be a beer belly, which I'm not sure how that works given that they are toys and don't eat food unless it's like water absorption from being a lost toy. And then a bit of a playful competitive fight between Woody and Buzz about who is the real deputies for the whole ordeal, and Bo and the other lost toys heading off, making it unclear of how much of a presence they will have in this film. I think in all sense of things that I'm still very excited for this project in general, and I'm interested in the case of how this will all come together, because if they ever mention more stories of this film is unclear, but I think this would be an overall perfect send-off to it all in the series, unless they do like shorts again. But I'm for sure checking this out when it comes on the 19th of June. Moving now over to the live action side of content, as The Rock and Shafran Liga Aya appeared on stage and talked about the all-new live action take on Moana, and shows the focus of a trailer of snippets and clips of her stranded out at seas calling out for guidance by her grandmother, while the songs via Moana plays out, while snippets of the adventure played from their confrontation of the Kakamora pirates, her obtaining the fish hook from Tamatoa, and the parting of the sea as a path forward before finishing with her belting out, "I am Moana." They also got a glimpse of the new take on Rock's rendition of "You're Welcome," with all the animated tattoos and as well in this follow-up. While I say the likes of this project can feel a little unnecessary, I will probably give this a watch, but this one looks the roughest of them all personally. But I'm sure we'll see this make a boatload of money when it releases on the 7th of July this year, but we'll see. On the side of the Soul Fox Searchlight project, we now turn our attention to Martin McDonagh's next project of Wild Horse 9, which seems to focus on some clips that were seen in the trailer from a few weeks ago, with the film set in the early 70s, and see the 2 CIA agents played by John Malkovich and Sam Rockwell talk with some students at an airport as they are assigned to fly all their way to Easter Island, where they are talking with 2 Chilean women talk about the indigenous name of the country they are assigned to, which sets off Malkovich's character and talks if they enjoy their left-wing president threatens to destabilize their democracy, before focus on the next scene of the 2 agents bickering with each other on the plane about their pasts. It seems to really have the humor and tone that McDonagh has in his previous films and writing, and I feel this could be another big hit success on the director, and likely hitting the film festivals in the fall, but I think will be well worth watching releases in November as well. We are moving back over to the animation for 2 more pieces of content. The first in focus is with the next animated winter film from the studio, with the official first look at their movie of Hex, which seems to have a bit of a change in focus since it was first announced back in September last year, with the gender of the main lead being changed from male to female, and the footage shows the character of Billy Doe now being played by Haley Steinfeld, an unconventional teenage girl who discovers that she comes from a lineage of witches, and we see her fall down a dark and mysterious lair full of twisty tree branches and vines and discover a magic talking book and pen, which soon give her a series of questions to prove that she is a witch, which has some comical answers connecting to the tropes of witches like being murdered at the stake. But she passes from feeling she doesn't belong in the regular world, where she is teleported through a portal to a place called Hex, which looks like a Renaissance era village. The scene gives off a vibe that hopefully will be a new magical adventure that will provide a hopefully entertaining journey, with a focus as well to confirm that Rashida Jones will be playing the mother of Billy, and I'm interested to see more of this footage when it releases by November 25th of this year. On the other side of animation from the studio, and the remnants of the animation studio of Fox, the attendees were given a new look at the upcoming 6th film of the Ice Age series with Boiling Point. The most of the footage shown focus on the iconic squirrel of Scratch as he tries to keep hold of his acorn while also caring for the return of Baby Scrat, with this being his first film debut in the series, with Scrat burying his acorn in the ice before suddenly lava spews on the ground and sends the 2 squirrels tumbling into the underworld of the dinos. While we're after landing, the large squirrel taking quite the tumble down the chasm sees his acorn turn to ash, which sees him throw the remnants of the acorn at a T-Rex fossil that causes lava to splash back at him, having him burnt to a crisp. After that whole ordeal, we pan to a focus on Manny, Sid, Diego, and Ellie, and looking across the lost world and looking into the far distance and trying to find a new home. It seems like it's unclear if anyone else besides the main group of the cast shown will appear, like Peaches and her husband, Crash, Eddie, Buck, Sid's partner from the end of Collision Course, and the others, because it seems unclear at the moment, but I'm sure we'll get an idea of it all in due time. And personally, there's a bit of a guilty pleasure for these films for me, and I'm sure it'll be well for watching releases next February. And to wrap up the entire presentation, all the events of these presentations is one of the last big films of the year, and as of course with the next Avengers movie of Doomsday, which had Chris Evans, Kevin Feige, John Anthony Russo, and Robert Downey Jr. appeared on stage at the event to talk on where the project project will be in set in the timeline, as well as the focus of getting an exclusive trailer and focus this project. Now, the trailer opens with Charles Xavier watching an energy rift from inside the X-Mansion, a licensed shambles with the famous sign for the school left in ruins. We get the official first look at Downing as Victor Von Doom unmasked and show with a scarred face, speaking in a Latvian accent, threatening that something is coming that cannot be stopped. After logos, we cut to the new and improved Avengers Tower with a newly painted A on the side, where we will see the Fantastic Four interacting for the first time with other heroes, specifically with Sam Wilson's Division of Avengers talking with Reed Richards, while the Thing comes into contact with the Wakandans, as we saw in the fourth 1-minute trailer from earlier this year, while Shuri and Baku are trying to make an alliance with peace with Namor and the Atlanteans of the Kingdom of Talokan. It's then showing some combat between different heroes, like Shang-Chi fighting against Gambit with him holding off the 10 rings with his purple staff, Yelena fighting against Mystique that has transformed herself into a copy of her, and a fight between the two ensues. The main focus comes from the return of Thor, who tries to stop the heroes from fighting one another, but before we see this, we see the remaining god of Asgard taking on Doom by himself, and showing that even with Stormbreaker and trying to summon lightning, Doom is able to stop it with just the palm of his hand. While trying to stop the quarrels of the heroes and the rally behind his friends and allies dying by those less powerful than Doom, and while he does show fear of all of this, he hopes for the aid of America, which then looks to someone off screen before it is revealed to be Steve Rogers himself, with Mjolnir flying back into his hand before the tile drops. Now, this does sound pretty interesting, and seeing all these characters, new and old, joining forces and fighting one another is kind of interesting and has some strong potential. I personally hope they do drop this trailer soon, because there seems to be a demand for it, and I would have to save them all the flashing and cameras instead of, but I'm optimistic for this. I'll be checking this out when it comes out December 18th. And with all this, that's what Disney has to show, which does seem like an interesting aspect of this project, so it seems to be mostly focused on the concept this year, and one for the next when they have potential to show more, but I'm sure they'll be saving that for D23 in August, but overall, not too bad of a content shown. And that as well also ends the presentations of Cinemacon, and there's some bits that felt missing not already discussed on, from the showing the full film of the Universal panel for the live-action How to Train Your Dragon sequel footage, or the full film of Forgotten Island, and Warner confirmed that Minecraft movie sequel titles are just a Minecraft sequel. Sure, some hope for some more projects, like Universal giving some updates on the likes of Shrek 5 from reported rumors, Warner not having much else for DC, like news on Man of Tomorrow, The Batman Part 2, but both have yet to start filming, or even Disney delving into some early 2027 releases like Gadot over Pixar, but they probably had a lot to work with what they can for the time frames, and it does seem like they quietly rate for this year's contents, and gives me reason to head back to movies for a fair amount of times from this year and beyond. But with all of this, what do you make of the Cinemacon this year, and what stood out to you the most, and what did you hope to get new updates, and when do you see some of these clips and trailers be released to the public? Let me know what you think down below, and we could discuss about them there. Oh, you thought I was done after all that from Cinemacon? You must be mistaken. But luckily for you, this is a much shorter story in focus. It's a bit of a hodgepodge to make a system about 3 projects on the way in film, with two in film occurred, and events and some new items announced. So that's obviously what we have for offer this week. So it's been a little bit of time since we discussed about some new products from this company, but we have some news in relation to the world of those wonderful building bricks off of Lego. As for this week's set reveal, is one that I mentioned about a rumor about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, at the end of January, where we have seen the rumored ones of Tintin, Snoopy, and the Luigi Mach 8 build become a reality. But there was one more I alluded to that was more focused in being a set that's more bigger, cruder, and with a very strong use of the color green. As after initially being rumored a few weeks ago, they finally unveiled this week the official first set build based on the popular ogre of Shrek. Now, it's not the swamp set piece that was floating around for a bit of time all these years, but rather it was a rumored large build of the ogre with his wise-talking donkey in this large build display, and also comes with a minifigure for the famous fearless feline of Puss in Boots. Now, this set looks really well designed. It has a good build with a fair bit of Easter eggs, and also comes with the confirmation of when we can expect this set. Initially, the reported date for this set being dropped was sometime in September, but it's also been confirmed now to be set for dropping on 1st of June, same day as the Snoopy one, and coming at a price at around €130, which is honestly not a bad price for this build. Around the same price as that Zelda set that released last month. So I'm sure I'll be interested to buy this set and give it a build. Now, I feel this is probably just the start of the first sets based on this series of films. Likely we'll get some based on the upcoming film next year, and maybe even a large build version of a swamp, but as things go right now, it's unclear on that, and we can appreciate this set for the moment. But if more of this ogre comes about in the future waves, I will provide that in a later episode, and I'll also wait for confirmation of another Titan reported set that's coming near Christmas or something, but we'll see about that. Now, as I mentioned, it's not the last of the stories in focus with film discussion, as there's been other projects being unveiled to be coming to us from the established studios, and it looks like we'll be taking a page out of the Disney book of animation to live action, but not with any project from the House of Mouse. I was confirmed on Friday that a live action take on the classic 90s animated film of Fern Gully is in the works at Amazon Studios. Studios and will be helmed by Marielle Heller, director behind the films of Night Bitch and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Now, for those unfamiliar with the film, it followed the magical inhabitants of an Australian rainforest as they fight to save their home that is being threatened by a logging company and a polluting force of destruction known as Hexus. So it'll definitely have a strong focus about saving the environment. Now, I can see it working with a solid focus, and if there's a love for the original entry, then I can see it happen. But the case with any live action remakes that it will have a sense of caution, but also some optimism as well too. Now, at the moment, we have no idea when we can expect this project or who will be portraying the cast of the film, but if I hear anything new, I'll provide that in a later episode as well. And our last update in a more different approach, this next announcement is keeping it in the realm of animation and taking a focus to another established story we have seen an adaptation in live action form 2 times based on the book. One that was a prequel from about 3 years ago, but in this case it looks like a follow-up is occurring for a classic children's story, but it's more in a different outcome than you think. I was announced that we're getting a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, with the film confirmed as Charlie versus the Chocolate Factory, which makes it seem like it's unlikely to adapt the Great Glass Elevator. The project being helmed and in some capacity with Taika Waititi, who will also be portraying Wonka in a new film, which will take place in modern day London, with Wonka returning back to controlling the factory after a stint in prison for turning a child into a blueberry, and looks to try and bring some sweetness to a better world. However, this is where a teenage Charlie comes into play, as to avoid their homes being taken over and being evicted, him and his rotten friends will have to break in and steal the priceless Wonka bar. What lies inside this factory will be more than they can chew for these kids to obtain their prize. And just like an interesting follow-up, and I can see them having some appeal to concept and outcome, and I have seen that the studio behind the animation of Into the Spider-Verse and K-pop Demon Hunters are involved with this project, so I just hope we'll have some very dazzling visuals and narrative concept as well, with this release aimed for sometime in 2027. Now, at the moment, we have no idea what other big names besides Waititi and Kate Connor's Charlie are involved in this cast of characters as of yet, but if there's any new updates, I'll provide that in a later episode as well. But what do you make of these stories? Are you excited to build this new Lego Shrek set, and what are based on the universe do you want to see, or other DreamWorks based properties? Will you be checking out that new Fern Gully live action remake when it comes in a couple years time? And are you interested in this Charlie and the Chocolate Factory sequel? Because I'm kind of interested in these regards. Let me know your thoughts down below in all the discussions here, and with all that regards, that's all the news that we have for this week.
If this is it, please let me know.
And there's all regards now to ends up with episode 152. We're in my newsroom, and I hope you enjoyed my ramblings for probably nearly an hour at this rate. I have no idea. I'm gonna run down the stuff here. So anyway, reviews. You know the gist. I'm currently writing them as we speak. From like Last of Us has been Snacks at Box Office one. I'm gonna do one video a piece for each season of Smiling Friends now, and a few other bits and pieces and stuff. I'll come to those regards and stuff and things. But yeah, there's variations of lengths, different genres, all that different stuff, so look forward to those. Gameplay wise, I'm gonna get back to recording some more stuff like Donkey Kong Bonanza, Star Wars Outlaws, Mario Wonder, Cyberpunk, and more. I'm currently been streaming at the moment, as I've currently streamed about an episode so far already of Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. I'll probably be streaming probably in the next day or two, so if you want to join the stream, you can follow my Twitch down the link above in my YouTube channel. You'll know when I go live, and in the case that if you want to have like any specific fictional character or even your own version of a me made, you can let me know and I'll probably add them in. So there'll be more streams of that and more of the VODs coming from Twitch over to YouTube, so you can check them out here as well. And in the case of long form stuff, I'll get to the anticipated media stuff, Horror Most Bore, AI Iron Choice video, other video game stuff. They're all going to come as well as the case with other variations of long form videos, the Rewatchathon, and another timeless build, which is going to be on the Mighty Bowser first. And then I might morph them into streams, or might do some ones where it's just like kind of like one-off stories at the side. That's basically all I have for the moment. So with all that regards, and then the episode there for now. So as always, if you want to check out my stuff and want to see more from me more frequently, then simply like and subscribe. I open this up every single week. I'm aiming for about 750 to 1,000 subs for the end of this year, so any support would be greatly appreciated. If you want to get yourself 10% off on some pure crack, get yourself a tasty beverage for the spring months, you can use my code Sam Harrison. That's all one word, all caps, and link in the description down below. And in all cases, well, let me know your thoughts on everything discussed week, from the new releases, the trailers, and the extensive news story about Cinemacon. All your thoughts on all the footage discussed, or all the trailers and things like that, and we can talk about them down below. But with that regards, I'm going to end there for now. So as always, you will stay wonderful people. Have a great day. Every day do many great things. Keeping you because no one else can do what you do, and take care of yourself because mental health is very important. Now I'm going to go rest because I've been talking for God knows how long. I've been your host Sam, of course, and I'll see you all in the next episode. So take care, and I'll see you later.